Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Open Source Office. Once again, this is Tex. I'm the Open Source Program Manager here at Intersect. We've got a little bit of an interesting Cardano spotlight for you here today. We are going to be talking with Storm Partners, and I'm joined by Nico Masella. Nico, tell us some more about yourself.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here and with the Cardano community. I'm a lawyer. I'm partner here at Storm Partners, and I'm specifically a Web3 lawyer. Been for the past 5 years, since the beginning of Storm. We have been advised tens and tens of Web3 related projects, and proudly a lot part of the Cardano ecosystem. We've really been part of the ecosystem for the past few years, being there at the last Cardano summits, speaking about many different topics, DAOs, DeFi, and as we will see, also topics that have a lot to do with open source.
That's really exciting. And I'll tell you, as I've come on my journey with open source, I've learned how legal is actually a very important part of it, even though it's not talked about, let's say, as prevalently as some other items or other tenets of open source development. But why don't we start out with maybe just a brief intro on Storm, and then we'll get into some questions.
Sure. Storm is a consulting firm. We are based in Geneva, in Switzerland, but we also have a team in London and a few people working remotely. Our firm advises on not only on the legal side, so legal side is my team, and of course I'm very proud to do that, but we also do strategic advisory and growth consulting.
Awesome. Well, that's a lot going on there, but hopefully we can find a place for everybody. All right, so we'll dig into this a little bit here. How would you say that Storm's legal support contributes to the health and sustainability of the Cardano open source ecosystem? Are there any specific legal challenges that you're able to address for developers and projects?
Yeah, I would say so. Let's start from the point that I think projects in our industry have a decent amount of legal challenges. So it's not only it's not that we are special and we can particularly help anybody, is that there are these issues and they need to be faced, and we can for sure help the projects to face them. As you said, like the legal part is something that is from time to time neglected, or let's say not addressed at the beginning and then kind of comes up later. I don't think that it should be seen as excessively as a burden for founders or as something that you have to fear. It's just something that you have to deal with. It might not be the most sexy part of the work, but get it done. And in the end, it's a bit like going to the doctor. If you go very early on when the pain is small, then the solution usually is also small. If you go when the pain is big, then also the solution becomes complicated.
What a great reference. I'll tell you, it's something I dealt with myself, is trying to get back going to the doctor early and regular too, is another piece of that. But tell us some more. I think everyone's probably wanting to know more about the expertise. How does this work for Storm? What are you guys most comfortable with or familiar with when it comes to blockchain and open source? I know you mentioned a few things, so yeah.
Look, the real thing here is that our team does only Web3, blockchain, and digital asset related work. And we have been doing that for the past 5 years. So it is really our core expertise. We are not like other firms in which basically they do a lot of different things and then Web3 is just part of the work. We work only with Web3 projects. We have assisted over 50. We have assisted on many, many token launches. And we have assisted a wide variety of projects. A lot of DeFi platforms, a lot of DAOs, back in the day, NFT-related projects, different type of like exchanges, of course, crypto asset service providers, various type of platforms that somehow involve a blockchain aspect or, for instance, a token. So really a wide variety of projects. If I have to come more to the open source part, I would say open source is very important when it comes to DeFi, because in the end, there you really need to know the rules of the trading house, and the rules are in the smart contracts, and they need to be open source for the platform to be transparent. As well as I would say, open source is one of the components of the Web3 industry in terms of ethos, and so a lot of platforms have an open source component, which then triggers a lot of, let's say, questions about intellectual property, ownership, licensing, and maybe this is a topic we will develop more and more in the following questions.
All right. Well, if we're not repeating ourselves too much here, specifically following that open source idea, how is it that with your support, Storm is able to ensure compatibility and compliance for projects within the Cardano ecosystem using open source software development?
Yeah. So we need to start from the point of, so most of the time, a project is both creating software that they are releasing open source and also using software that was released by someone else open source. So in the open source domain, there are a few type of very common licenses so they're not so much, and they are widely used. So you need to understand when you use a software component that was released open source, under what type of license it was released, and therefore what you can do with it, and what are the requirements of that license. If you need to do some attribution, if you need to pay something, most of the time not. But what kind of modifications can you do? Did you need to mention them? Like these kind of things. And also then there is a second part. So what happens when you create something that you want to release open source? You need to put a license. That's something actually that is quite basic, but a lot of projects don't really think about it. Open source doesn't mean that you just publish it and then everybody can come and sort of like steal your work. The idea is that you still put a license that puts some boundaries about what other people can do with the software that you have created.
Absolutely. So following that idea of licenses, next question for some is probably going to be this scalability piece. It's a word that we hear quite often in open source development and where Cardano's headed as well. So how would you say, whether in theory or in practice, how Storm is able to scale your support for the evolving legal needs of Cardano's development?
Well, consider that apart from the fact that we work with some Cardano projects very closely because they are clients, they've been clients for years on, but we also got financed in one of the last Catalyst rounds to run basically a sort of legal support program for 50 projects that were founded by other Catalyst proposals. So our idea was, if the community decided to support them, then they deserve also legal support. And so it was very cool, because basically we supported projects that got founded just in the same round, and they were really at the start, which is honestly way better in terms of providing legal support, because you can structure things right from the start. So what we did, well, first of all, education. That's really the key point. Like, you need to talk with the founders and educate them about what they need, what they should look at, what they need to concern, what is not a concern, because sometimes maybe people are also concerned about things that are actually not really complicated, or they can be solved quite easily. It's just a matter of doing it. So that was the part of the education. Of course, then was the part of the advisory, which was a bit tailor-made for every project. So a project comes to you and say, okay, we want to do this. Okay, let's look into what you want to do and structure things properly. So there are a lot of things from the corporate structure, so the entities, where to incorporate them, what kind of entities are you going to go for a foundation? Are you going to go for a company, for a DAO LLC? Now there is also that one. So you need to consider these kind of things. You need also to consider then what the platform wants to do. So what's the regulatory context in which they operate? Do they need authorization? Maybe they don't. Also there, you can be a bit strategic in the choice of the jurisdiction in which you locate yourself and the requirements. Usually you go for a jurisdiction that is, let's say, crypto friendly. Switzerland, for instance, where we are based, it's widely considered a crypto-friendly jurisdiction. It has been for years. And then you come to the part that is more related to the intellectual property. So, guys, what are you developing? Are you going to release it on GitHub? Perfect. Let's include the license there. And normally, the license is really part of the text of the code, so it's really there. And then again, what type of license? There are these standards. Is the standard really appropriate for you? Should we customize it? Sometimes we also customize it. It's useful. And then, yeah, maybe last but not least, the terms and conditions of the platform. So we also developed that part that nobody really reads, but it is actually important to have. It would be also important to read, but I understand that people like don't really have time.
Well, I'd say that you've highlighted a number of key questions to consider when it comes to, asking or seeking that legal support. And so I think that's really, really helpful. And that kind of helps define, as you spoke to as well, the target audience a little bit. But I would bring back the idea of scalability a little bit here as well. Beyond what's currently going on with the Catalyst funding that you said that you have for Storm, who are the primary users of Storm beyond that?
So, can you repeat the question? Who uses?
Right. So in relativity, we talked about how there's Catalyst funding, and the ideals is to fund other projects that have received Catalyst funding as well, right? And that's kind of like the current state. So following scalability, when we open this up to other open source projects, what are some of those tenets that they have? Like who should we be marketing to come and answer some of these questions that you've posed for what type of legal support that they're needing?
Yeah. So point here would be that what we have been doing with the project is also to collect basically a sort of FAQ. So we when we deal with these projects, we also understand what are the areas that are mostly concerned when it comes to them, and what they really everybody needs to be educated about. So then we also release, and we did it in the past. We are also doing it directly in collaboration with Cardano Foundation, some pieces of content that are freely available and everybody can read. And the idea is to provide content that really kind of provides this initial layer of education that otherwise you have to do basically one-to-one with every project. So the scalability also comes there. Another thing that we are doing, which I really like, is that we have interns and trainees that we really bring in when we do this kind of advisory, so that they also get immediately educated about what are the things that you need to explain to a project, what are the things that you need to look into, and so on. And then it enables us to multiply the effect of what we do. And also a very nice thing is that usually the age of our junior team members and the age of the young founders team is similar. So they even though they have very different backgrounds, because most of the teams are composed by developers and so on, then they speak with their sort of like same age colleagues that do the legal part, and it's funny to see them working together.
That's really important. As decentralized as we are, anytime that we can find those collective colleagues or colleagues in the same type of mindset, I can see that as really, really helpful. If we take use cases just from a different perspective, are there any open source projects that you can highlight, or case studies or other success stories of recent?
Well, one really cool thing we are doing now, and I'm glad that I can speak about it, is that we are developing our own standard open source license for DeFi smart contracts. We noticed that the open source licenses that are out there are not really a good fit for DeFi smart contracts, because DeFi smart contracts enables you to make transactions, which is not really something that other pieces of software do. And it's not really something that was in the mind of whoever drafted the other licenses for open source software back in the day. So there are some specific challenges that need to be addressed there. And we are developing our own model, and we intend to release it open source, free for everyone to use. And why also, maybe because this question also came up internally, like should we sell this or should we release it for free? And we really thought, no, we want to release it for free because it's the same ethos of what our clients are doing when they are creating open source software, and we want to be part of that ethos, even though we are lawyers and not developers.
A new license sounds very exciting, and I would agree with you. It seems to meet that ethos, but from a number of perspectives, not only the open and free side of things, but the consistent concurrent development piece as well. So I'm glad to see and hear about that from every angle, of every facet of different things that build into the development process here. We're moving pretty quick through some things, so I'll just make a mention to the community here. Make sure you give us a like, give us a subscribe there, or get notified so you see these videos live hand, and give us a comment if there's something that you're not hearing. We definitely want to make sure that you can get those answers, or if you're a project that needs that support, we definitely want to connect with you. But I'll follow along with the development track here for you, Nico. What's the roadmap look like? What are some future developments that are going on for Storm Partners rather, as we continue on?
Well, we are always expanding, and we have been doing that over the past 5 years. Storm was really was small when we created it. Shiraz, my business partner, was the founder, and then got me on board very soon. And the idea of what we want to do is that we want to become, I mean, it's a bold statement, but a sort of McKinsey of Web3. We notice that there is a lack of professional advisory services in Web3. And what we want to do is really to enable founders to just do what they are supposed to do. So to stay focused on the vision that they have, to build the product, and don't really be concerned with other matters that are maybe related to legal, to finance, to the strategy, and so on. And really what we have been doing for the past years is to try to build that. And we really see that we are every day kind of moving forward on this path, and we are doing that more and more. And so it's really nice when we see a certain project that we have assisted from the beginning, then developing. One project that is really related to the Cardano ecosystem that I've been working with for a long time is Atrium. I like Atrium. Don't know if you know them, Peyton and team, because they really sort of make it easy for everybody to interact with a lot of features of the Cardano ecosystem that maybe for me, for you, for people that are more well-versed in the technical aspects are actually easy to interact with, but for the average person is not. And I think actually this part of our industry is very important. Like if we want to enhance adoption and to increase the number of people that use Web3 infrastructures, then we need to also to make it easy for them. We cannot really ask everybody to sort of like learn and become experts, and then like otherwise you need to remove the friction to have a larger adoption.
Right on. So maybe let's move into a little bit of the community engagement side here, right? So with development, we still need to tell people about this development. So, whether via Intersect or anything that we can do from the open source office side, and then also just in general, how are you guys engaging the Cardano community or the Web3 community at large about the legal support that you guys offer?
So, as I was saying before, I think the most important thing we can do is to release basically free content. So manuals, guides, informative books that we can publish that really what we try to do there is to use a very simple language and to try to give very clear explanations about the topics that we cover, from issuing a token to creating a project, fundraising, all the sort of different things. I see a lot of people using these kind of things in general, not, of course, not only ours, but even in terms of model contracts and so on. But then it's also important to kind of educate people. Like you see a lot of people using safe plus token warrants to fundraise, but it's not a super easy contract to understand. And when like you are a founder and you don't have any legal expertise and you just find a random template online without anybody explaining you how to use it, then you can do some pretty big mistakes actually. And it would be better to have, yes, the template, great, but then also a small manual that at least explains you how to use it. And so this is what we are doing with a lot of content. We also do it in terms of speaking at, for instance, at Cardano Summit. What the last masterclass I did was quite interesting according to the people that attended, not according to me. And it was about DAOs, and it was really great because I'm a very big fan of DAOs, but DAOs are also something complex, a bit of a buzzword. It could mean many different things, and so it's important, again, to educate, to discuss it, to get more and more people to participate to the conversation, and not, don't stop at the cover, don't stop at like the buzzword, the DAO. No, try to understand the topic, try to understand, in particular, if you want to create a DAO, what kind of DAO you want to create, what kind of governance you want to do. And also that is very exciting, because when you create a DAO, you create a community with some rules that self-govern itself. It's super cool, but you have to figure out how your community will work, how you keep people engaged, and so on. And for instance, for me, Cardano itself as an ecosystem is a kind of a blueprint for that. We have been involved in the whole constitution process. We have participated in the meetups, in the workshops, and so on. It has been great. When I speak with DAOs, even very large ones, I reference to Cardano as a sort of like blueprint to create decentralized governance that is effective, that works, in which people participate. And this is really great of Cardano, and Cardano has been able to achieve this.
So you talked quite a bit about, and I agree with you, not jump too far ahead, right? Yeah, there's a lot of references to Cardano and what it provides as an example, and then also in the utility. But as far as like the documentation of these resources, is there like an open library that people can access here, or is that locked behind a console?
We are building it in our new website. Our current website is for a bit old. It's like 2 to 3 years old. In the new website, we will have a library directly in which people can download it. But then, yes, everything is released also to our social media. So it's on LinkedIn, it's on Twitter, X, sorry. So yeah, I mean, we try to make it as available as possible.
All right. Well, I guess we'll bring back DAOs in this instance here, but focus also on a hot topic in the Cardano ecosystem, probably for a long time. But that's governance and decentralized governance at that. So how are you able to advise Cardano projects on the legal aspects of this decentralized governance, I guess, format?
Well, that's super interesting because it's one of the things we are really involved with. Well, first of all, you need to understand what kind of legal meaning do you want to give to the governance structure. So you could have a really super decentralized governance system that is 100% legally enforceable, which sounds great, but it is something that also you need to make it work. Like, it needs to work. Otherwise, then like you just paralyze your own project. And what we do there is, first of all, work with the founders about the governance framework. So really decide how the governance framework works. So who decides what? Is there a committee? Do you have the token holders voting all the time? Spoiler, that usually doesn't work that well. You cannot ask people to vote every week on everything. You need maybe to have some important decisions that are subject to the vote of the whole community. You need to have then maybe some committees with some specific functions that take care of certain things, but the committee need to operate in a transparent manner to report to the community, to publish what they do, to be transparent in their decisions. And so really structuring this organogram of how decisions are made, how are taken, and then how are implemented. And again, the Cardano Constitution here can be seen as an example because of the double face of the Constitution, the part that we can call the legal test, but then the guardrails, that is the on-chain implementation of that legal text. And you have to think that when we started working on these things, we really started the other way around. So we worked with projects that already had written the smart contracts and everything, and they had effectively a governance framework. and we created a legal translation of that governance framework. But the best thing is actually to create the governance framework on paper before, and then to create the on-chain version and then the legal version. And in creating the legal version, you also have to create the legal entities for it. So what should your DAO be? Should it be a DAO LLC in Wyoming or in the Marshall Island? Or maybe a foundation, like in Switzerland, for instance, we don't have this specific type of legal entity, the DAO LLC, but you can usually use associations or foundations in order to run a DAO, and they work just fine. So a lot of work to be done when creating a DAO. And then last but not least, I want to close with this remark on this. In my opinion, decentralized governance is a journey. It's not something that you achieve on day one. You need to get there. So you need to have a framework that will be implemented over time, because you need some key elements to be there. One of them is participation from the community. If you have a very, very nice decentralized governance system, but then people don't participate, it's meaningless.
Well, this has been super informative, and I believe that everyone might be able to find something out of this, if not more than one something. So thank you so much for devoting some time here, Nico. Thank you for giving us an outlay on Storm Partners, and I look forward, I would say we as Intersect look forward as well to how we can build that relationship, facilitate the community engagement, keep that focus on open source, and get everyone legal support they need when they need it as well. A couple of things that we talked about there. So thank you once
very
again.
much.
Any other passing thoughts before we close this out?
Well, if you want to know more about this thing of DAOs and decentralized governance, I think that my masterclass, I think it's like a 1-hour masterclass at the last Cardano Summit, is online on YouTube. So I also encourage the community to use all the material that is already online, either on the Intersect channel or on the Cardano Foundation channel. I know there is a variety of channels, but there is a lot of content there. So yeah, let's use what we had.
Definitely some great notes. Yes, let's take advantage of what we have. Well, thank you once again, Nico. And signing off for the Open Source Office. Again, give us a like, a subscribe, give us a comment, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.